Fun today. Sweet. Okay, we're good. All right. I will call to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Knopf,
Here.
Mr. Ambeline,
Here.
Ms. Greenfield,
Here.
Mr. McCready,
Here.
Mr. McLean is absent, Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Mara.
Here. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Bernardsville News and Courier News, filed with the municipal clerk and posted on the municipal bulletin board on December 15th, 2022. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Republic which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome to the April 10th, 2023 meeting of the Bernardsville Borough Council. This meeting is being conducted in person in the council chambers in Borough Hall, and it is being broadcast live on YouTube and on Zoom to make it as convenient as possible for residents to attend the meeting. Members of the public who are here in person and those attending remotely on Zoom will be given the opportunity to comment at appropriate times during the meeting in accordance with the following guidelines. Members of the public will be allowed to speak during the open sessions and during formal public hearings on the agenda, including public hearings on the ordinances. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, which will be monitored and enforced by the borough clerk. Comments containing offensive, profane, or indecent language or language constituting hate speech will not be permitted. Remote participants will be muted unless they are unmuted by the clerk, and remote participants will not be able to unmute themselves. The clerk will mute remote speakers at the expiration of their 3 minutes of allotted time, or if they make any inappropriate or offensive comments. All speakers, whether in person or on Zoom, shall state addresses before making their comments. Speakers on Zoom shall activate their cameras so that they can be seen by members of the governing body and audience. Failure of the governing body to provide a live broadcast of this meeting or technological problems encountered during the course of the meeting that affect remote viewing and or participation will not invalidate this meeting or any action taken, including but not limited to the adoption of any ordinance, resolution, or motion. Yeah, and I need more water after I read all that. Okay. So we have a proclamation for this for yeah, Child Abuse Month. So I will read that. Yeah, thanks for the water. I'm going to read it. Okay. This is a proclamation of the mayor, Borough of Bernardsville. Whereas the maltreatment, abuse, and neglect of children is a significant social problem that damages children physically, mentally, and emotionally, and inflicts immeasurable harm on society as a whole. And all children deserve to be nurtured, protected, and free from physical or emotional harm. And whereas the state of New Jersey and the New Jersey Department of Children and Families believe that the best place to raise children is among strong, healthy families. And whereas the state of New Jersey is committed to building a continuum of community-based child abuse prevention and intervention programs that are culturally competent, strength-based, and family-centered, and that achieve positive outcomes for parenting and family relationships, as well as empower domestic violence victims and their children. And whereas the New Jersey Department of Children and Families embraces the standards for prevention programs developed by the New Jersey Task Force on Child Abuse and Neglect. And whereas all sectors of the community, including law enforcement, medical professionals, schools, courts, and media outlets, as well as numerous public and private agencies, have joined forces to promote public awareness and community involvement in strengthening families during the month of April and continuing throughout the year. Now, therefore, I, Mary Jane Canos, Mayor of the Borough of Bernardsville, do hereby proclaim April 2023 Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month in the Borough of Bernardsville, State of New Jersey, and urge our residents to become involved in efforts aimed at strengthening families and communities and preventing our children from being abused and neglected. This is given under my hand in the Great Seal of the Borough of Bernardsville in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, this 10th day of April in the year 2023. And we'll be doing a pinwheel garden, I guess, this month as well. If you remember, I mentioned it, I think last month. And I had reached out to the business community to see if any of them wanted to sponsor it, and actually 5 of them said they would be, and then even Jessica J. Walker said she would do her own pinwheel garden on her front lawn. So it was a great response from the community. So we're really pleased, and hopefully we'll be seeing the blue pinwheels as a reminder. So thank you. And I have another one that isn't on the agenda. And I did you want to copy of this?
I would love a copy.
You know what, I will sign it and give you a signed one.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I should have the pinwheels in hand tomorrow, so hopefully come back Wednesday to
Oh,
go.
great. Sign that. So now it's official, it's all signed and everything. We have another proclamation that wasn't on the agenda. And it is on Tom Cherniewski's retirement. Whereas Mr. Cherniewski began his employment with the Borough of Bernardsville on February 8, 2021 as Borough Administrator. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski motivated and empowered managers and employees to share their ideas. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski created the Law Enforcement Foundation to support the Bernardsville Police Department. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski realigned and streamlined our lead processes. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski moved Bernardsville departments to a new approach to budgeting, which has stabilized our finances and found new funding to invest in the community's activities. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski helped to spearhead the implementation of our master plan, recreation and downtown plan, which has led to a renaissance in our community. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski also found time to meet with residents who had questions or wanted more information on issues. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski was a trusted advisor, counselor, and leader who always provided unbiased, honest advice. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski helped to build a culture for borough employees where Bernardsville was a great place to work in addition to being a great place to live. And whereas Mr. Cherniewski kept all stakeholders in the Bernardsville community, police, fire, library, school, residents, and employees engaged and feeling like they always had a champion in him who would listen to and support their ideas and concerns. And now, therefore, I, Mary Jane Canos, Mayor of the Borough of Bernardsville, by the authority vested in me and representing the Borough Council of the Borough of Bernardsville, do hereby congratulate Tom Cherniewski on his accomplishments and service to the Borough of Bernardsville and wish him the best in his retirement.
Wow.
And this was a compilation of council members. We all put this together, so it wasn't, I didn't write this, we all did, so.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna treasure that.
And I'll get the clerk to sign it for you, and it'll be official.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to ordinances. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that one. Yes, open session. For any items not listed for a public hearing. Would anyone in the audience like to be heard? Either on Zoom or here in person? No?
Yes.
Seeing none, I will close the public session. Now I will open the public session on ordinance 2023-1958 appropriating $24,854 from the capital fund reserve for mitigation projects. Would anyone in the public like to be heard on this ordinance? And I believe this was yours, isn't it? Glenn? No, no, you can come up later, yeah. This was stormwater, yes. And it was money, it was from Jim Welch that actually they deposited and now we're giving it back, so that's pretty much what it was. Anyone? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Christine, you want to do that one?
Pass ordinance 2023-1958 on final reading and adopt as published.
I'll second. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Ambeline?
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield?
Yes.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Merrill?
Yes.
I will open a public hearing on ordinance 2023-1959 and ordinance amending salary ordinance 2023-1955. Would anyone like to be heard on this ordinance? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
I think that's it.
Go ahead.
I move to pass ordinance 2023-1959 on final reading and adopt as published.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield?
Yes.
Mr. Ambeline?
Yes.
Right. Jay, would you like to introduce the next one?
Sure.
I have a question on this one. Introduce a person? Yeah.
Okay, I move that ordinance 2023-1961 and ordinance amending salary ordinance 2023-1955 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, published according to law, and that public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7 p.m. Monday, April 24th, 2023. Did I get the right one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'll second.
All right.
That's not the one I haven't done. Oh, we're okay on that? Yeah. That was just changing the clerk and the QPA. All right, so it's just a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And there'll be a public hearing then later on. Diane, are you next one?
This is the one I have a question on.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'll introduce.
I move that ordinance 2023-1962, repealing local pay to play ordinance that has been preempted by 2023 C30 and amending chapter 2 of the Borough Code entitled Administration be introduced by title, passed on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be scheduled for a meeting beginning at 7:00 p.m. Monday, April 24th, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, and I think maybe Jack, you need to kind of explain what this is about before we ask
Yes,
questions.
the original pay-to-play law provided that municipalities could adopt stricter ordinances than the state regulations. This new law, which was just adopted, Public Law 2023, Chapter 30, provides that any local ordinance limiting the contributions that the holders of a contract can make during the term of the contract, and also made a contribution pursuant to the campaign contribution and expenditures reporting shall cease to be in effect and shall expire on the effective date of this act. So the state has preempted this whole area, and we're no longer permitted to have local pay-to-play ordinances.
That answers my question.
So do we vote to adopt the state one, or just the state one is in place? So we
The
just have
state,
to
we
follow
always been
it?
subject to the state one, but our ordinance is stricter than the state
Ah.
regulations. Now they're saying you can no longer adopt the local ordinance,
Stricter was ours,
a lot stricter.
really?
Yeah, I think that this was really controversial.
Yes.
Following it, that they actually lowered the bar around state pay to pay laws, and there was bipartisan pushback against it, and we ended up passing the legislature. I think, I don't know if others have followed this, but it seems like that there's been a lot of localities that have a problem with the fact that the state was sort of taking lowering the pay laws. I'm sure that no matter what we do, it's rescinded and the state law is preeminent, but I just want to, I mean, I think we should probably move this to public session, obviously, move it to a public hearing, obviously. But I do wonder if maybe there's like a statement that we want to make here.
Yeah.
You're right, it lowers the reportable amount from $300 to $200, but it increases amounts that have been given the tax and things like that. You're right, it's very controversial.
Yeah.
Did anyone else follow this? Did you follow this?
Well, that's
Yeah.
why I was questioning it, because I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would we be doing this? Yeah.
Why would they make it less strict? That doesn't make sense.
So if Governor Murphy was behind it, I'm not sure what is why. It's very controversial.
If we didn't pass it. Curious, like, if this, if we refuse to pass this.
It would be informative.
Basically, that's what I was thinking.
We couldn't implement our ordinance. If we
So effectively, we have our ordinance on the books, but we couldn't enforce our.
That's correct.
Because of this.
Couldn't we protest vote?
You can protest. But it actually expires by state law. You know, we don't even have to do this, but what it does is takes it out of our code book, is really what it's doing.
So I would like to submit that for the public hearing. We should move it to public hearing, hear what people say about it. We ask our state legislators for their perspective on it, and maybe get like a third party. I don't know who's like a New Jersey election watchdog organization. Maybe we can just do a little like. Make sure the public knows that there's a lot of controversy on this.
Yeah, I'll dig up some of the background.
Yeah.
I would be curious to see if the League of Municipalities has an opinion on it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. They usually print some, you know.
Yeah, I'll check and distribute it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right. We did do our voice vote, did we? No, we didn't. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, opposed? No one. All right, moving on to resolutions. Any that you want to discuss separately? I don't know that many. We got nine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On one, it's the authorization of payment of bills specific to the lighting at the polo grounds. And I noticed there's a $10,000 payment to the engineering firm. I'm assuming that's for plans that they're putting together. So is that coming out of the open space? I mean, ultimately, will that be allocated to open space? Is that how that's being paid?
So it's being paid out of the bond, and the bond is being financed by the open space development.
Okay,
That will ultimately be a bond. It's the bond ordinance for that project
okay,
put in place, and that's the portion given to professional services.
okay. All right, thank you.
And
But
that's,
to answer, short answer is yes, open space trust fund is paying for this.
Okay,
and that's for the study of the engineering study.
I mean, it was initially feasibility studies.
Yeah.
preliminary engineering, yeah. Okay, thank you.
And the snack bar we only have one bid, and it's the person we've had for the last couple of years who does a really good job, so I think, yeah.
Okay, John's tried for years to get more bidders and
No, I mean, it's
it's not able to do it.
yeah, it's tough to do with the short season.
He does a nice job.
Great.
Does a really good
He
job.
does a really good job, and everybody really likes him, so. Anything else? Somebody like to move them? Al?
Sure. I move that resolutions 2394 to 2399 be adopted.
A second. Roll call, please.
Brandon,
Yes,
Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
Ms. McCready,
Yes.
Ms. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Okay, moving on to the budget. I think we should have the presentation first before we open the public hearing, so we can get the start.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna kick us off here. So I think I know everyone, especially it's a smaller crowd here tonight, but Al Rivera, the chair of the finance committee, and very proud to present this year's budget to council on its behalf of the finance committee, myself, Councilman Andelang and Councilman McQueen, and as well as all the hard work that our CFO Leslie Robertson gave, as well as Tom Chernecki, our borough administrator. So thanks to both of them, and Leslie's on a well-deserved vacation, but I know that they really worked hard for this, and I want to thank my fellow members of council, all of whom gave input and heard aspects of this before we introduced it at the last meeting. So do you want to go to the next slide? I think we thought we would start with just sort of talking about what our priorities are as a finance committee. And I'll go quickly through each one of these, as like a kind of a double click on these. But high level, it's manage critical budget trends and prepare for recessions. Maintain a disciplined approach to debt management and plan for future capital needs responsibly. Invest capital in open space funds to compound value and return on investment per resident. Support opportunities to diversify and strengthen our tax base. Make Bernardsville the municipal employer of choice, even in a tight job market. So just with some specificity here. So around trends, you know, I think we've been really proud as a borough that we protected our AAA bond rating over the last, you know, as long as I can remember, but that's something that's a top priority for us. A healthy surplus to buffer against economic slowdowns, and a lot of conversation around that now. And a healthy surplus to capitalize on high interest rates when they're available. Test the health insurance market every 6 months to look to enter a regional HIF with no loss in quality, given the pressure to put on the budget from the state health with the change in the state health benefits. And then plan on capital projects and be prepared to execute when interest rates are reduced if possible. Next slide. Around debt management, pay as we go approach to recurring expenses. Maintain the smooth debt payment schedule to avoid debt spikes as a percentage of budget. This one's really important. You know, I think a lot of municipalities see kind of budget and the interest that they pay and their bond repayment schedule really affect their budget year to year. We really try to keep that smooth. And I can tell you from working with Tom and Leslie that we have it 10, 15 years in the future, exactly what our bond schedule is going to, our debt payment schedule is going to look like. That helps us to account for our budgeting, as well as be able to know how much funds we have to shift into borough priorities. And of course, identify opportunities for shared services. Was very proud that one was on the agenda today, where we absorbed the payroll services for the library, and that resulted in I think just around $20,000 of savings that went directly to the library to help them with their budget needs as well. Around capital and open space funds, compound value for residents. Continue to focus on critical infrastructure projects such as road and minimize costly reconstruction costs, which we know can really spike things. Improve, especially in an inflationary environment. Improve and fortify the sewer system. Tom tells me it's the backbone of economic development. So there you go. Eliminate liabilities, like when we took the proactive step to remove the dam and also try to address some of the positive environmental aspects of that as well. The walkability of the downtown area, with the train station walkway, and then park system investments to optimize existing assets to really help with our environmental goals, as well as the enjoyability for our residents as well. And support opportunities to diversify the tax base, stable property tax environment, support expanding downtown customer base through various programming. Downtown Bernardsville has done a really great job to help with that. Focus on pedestrian enhancements, walkability of the community, and to pursue opportunities which we talk about at council to fill and improve long-term vacant commercial buildings like the Audi dealership and the train station. And then finally, make Bernardsville a municipal employer of choice. Continue to invest in equipment and training. Promote efforts of nonprofit groups such as the Library Foundation, the Law Enforcement Foundation, sports groups that directly assist those departments, those teams, those organizations. We think that that's been a really beneficial thing that they've been able to help subsidize or pay for different investments and priorities that those entities have. And then continue to recognize the inflationary pressures on our employees and families. We are happy to be able to do, help this year with the salary increase and pursue better health insurance options, as I previously stated. Okay, so Tom, did you want to do this slide?
Sure.
Then I can go back.
So this dollar is divided up into the various entities that have their own governing bodies and set their own tax rates. Oftentimes, residents, particularly those who are from out of state, don't recognize that we are obligated to collect on behalf of everyone. But for every dollar we collect, we only keep about 24 or 25 cents of each dollar. And we are actually responsible for collecting 100% of what the other entities have budgeted for. So they don't get the pleasure of not realizing 100% of what they're taxing, but our team has to go out and support that. And then also, once we collect that and give that to them, should there ever be a tax appeal, as happens in the downturn sometimes, they don't give us that money back. So it really is like surfing, where, you know, we have to kind of try to anticipate things far in advance, budgetarily. So this is an important slide.
I have a question on this, shall we call the end?
No, but
So I just want to point out, not everybody on here is even, like the library, for example, theirs is set, their contribution is set by the state, not by the library.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to raise funds, or, well, I guess they could lower, but they don't have the ability to expand their funding as an entity like the schools would.
Thank you for pointing that out. This just shows like what
Where the
the
money's
governing
going.
body itself is responsible for, and they can control in some form or another. And it's not the whole dollar, that's the
Yep.
point, yeah.
But to your point, Jay, almost 72 to 75% of the tax dollars are controlled by entities outside of Bernardsville, right? So the schools has their own school board, the county controls their own tax rate. So, you know, just for residents to know that, for a stable budget environment, every elected body has to do their part.
So, and just a quick question, I know the municipal open space, the 99 cents was passed. And is kind of an automatic. What about the county open space funds? Are those, is that an automatic, or is that set by the board, the county board?
The county says.
Okay, so so unlike the municipal open space fund, which is set by, which was set outside of, I mean, effectively, we have to charge for that, or we have to do a referendum. The county open space funds is actually set by the county.
By referendum.
Oh, it's so it's the same thing. It's also.
Correct.
Okay.
But you can't pass a resolution directing the county to
Reduce.
increase it or reduce it.
But the county board, the county officials don't have the ability to increase or decrease that without a referendum. Is that accurate? Thanks.
and actually, that money is what paid for our turf field and our pickleball courts. From the county. So they actually goes back to
Came back.
municipalities.
Councilman, just to be like more accurate answer is, some governing bodies set the referendum and open space tax not to exceed a certain amount. And they set it pretty high, but then the governing body has the flexibility to set it anywhere below that.
I'm not sure that's legal, but yeah, a lot of tax things are not legal.
But I think it's important to stress when with the schools, they set their budget, they tell us how much they need. We collect the taxes. If we don't collect all our taxes, we still have to give the school what they ask for. We can't say, oh gee, you know, we only got 96% instead of 100%.
So
They always get what they've asked for.
100% of your risk is managed by 23% of your budget.
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
So there's a part of the budget called the RUT, the Reserve for Uncollected Taxes, that makes up the difference that everyone pays for. It's built into their tax bill, the idea that we may not collect 100%.
Mhm.
We go after it, of course, quite successfully, thanks to help Jack, but
But it's a large percentage.
yeah,
that we hold, just in case.
Yeah.
We're meeting this time. Yeah, okay. So we just want to kind of highlight, I think people are well aware of the headwinds that we're facing, but also we want to kind of highlight some of the positive things happening in the borough too, that the SS Bernardsville there is facing, right? So obviously stagnant state aid, Tom has a slide on this a little bit, but literally for 14, we've not gotten any increase in allocation from the state. This is a big issue across the boroughs and municipalities and cities across New Jersey. I know the bipartisan legislators are trying to work on this, but this is something that would really help to be able to not only allow us to do more investment, but potentially give funding back to the residents if we were able to get some state aid that we've been owed. Steady debt services increase until fiscal year 32. We talked about that before, how we're able to look into the future, but that's going to continue to rise. Obviously, last few years, higher costs due to inflation, which affects all of our purchasing, building materials and diesel fuel that we get, et cetera, a competitive labor market, and then unsustainable health insurance increases under the state health benefit plan for the borough and its employees. There has been some very positive things happening. I do think like the investments that we've made in the community and the positive momentum have led to a positive valuation this year, which I think you'll see a slide on that, but that's a really great development. And I think it's definitely attributable to it means that we're investing in the community, people want to invest here and live here and build their businesses here. Strong interest in redevelopment and revitalization, critical infrastructure being addressed like Bernards Ave, that, this council's really trying to prioritize. Ongoing retirement of accumulated leave obligation and leveling up of our road bond schedule from almost a decade ago at the end of this year. Any comments you want to make there, Tom? No? Okay. So here's the bottom line. Tax rate decrease, slight decrease, but it is a decrease. And no tax rate increase for the second consecutive year. So I think we can be really proud about that. We're not only lowering the decrease in the tax rate, but we're doing it in a way that's, as you will see, that's investing in borough priorities that we know residents have told council in a number of facets across the community. So what you'll see is a way that we were able to stabilize when we talked about fiscal discipline and stability, able to stabilize and not even decrease the tax rate while also making key investments in the community. So with that, Tom, let me hand it back to you to go over the details and then I'll summarize at the end.
So there are really two big parts of the budget. There's the total budget that's includes what we say is within caps and the stuff that's out of cap. So overall, the budget is $17.7 million, and it looks like it's a decent increase of almost 5%. But the reason the state has us develop a budget, calling some stuff in caps, some stuff out of caps, is if you happen to be getting a lot of grants in one year, when you spend it, well, that increases the bottom line, but you may not realize that the following year. Or shared service agreements or other things that are outside of standard municipal operations. Those are the things that fall outside of caps. Within caps is your standard operating departments, your public works, your police, those sort of things. So that part of the budget is going up $226,000 or 2.21%. So overall, the amount to be raised by taxes, when you combine those two, is $424,000 or 3.59%. Not bad in this inflationary environment that we're in. And so what is the impact on the average assessed home for this year? The top line is the municipal rate of 0.470. So the impact on your tax bill on the municipal end would be $3,965. Last year that was $4,002. So the decrease on this type of assessment would be $36.19. Overall, if you include all the municipal related portions that aren't related to the Board of Ed, the rate would be 0.522, or on that same home, the bill for library, municipality, and open space would be $4,408. Last year was $4,441. So the net decrease on the average assessed home would be $32.35.
So obviously that's the tax rate is going down, but it depends on your valuation, obviously. Yeah,
And that's just our piece.
right. That's true.
Great. So the primary, if you were looking to go line by the budget and try to identify the biggest increases by percentage, we've been sitting on our American Rescue Plan funds and trying to use them very sparingly and spread them out. So we didn't use them all in one year and then fall off the cliff the next and have to find other ways of making it up. The police retirement system, which is just a bill we get from the state, increased $130,000. Recreation and pool expenses are going up $93,000. That's a combination of employees, repairs, and materials such as chemicals. But I want to point out that the rec department as a whole has brought in $100,000, north of $100,000 more than last year. So that increase is offset. This is the health benefit, next is the health benefits increase we were talking about, that went up $66,000.
Previous slide.
That impacted us at about 12% in that line item. And employees are feeling that on their share as well. So the governing body did not wait for adoption of the budget to include their increase, which was greatly appreciated, because that went into effect for them in January. And then last year, we also budgeted a small bonus to take into account the rise in the price of fuel to help offset on a temporary basis, so it didn't fall into base those costs, and I know that was greatly appreciated as well. The portion of the budget that supplements for the library, the portion of the budget that supplements what we're obligated to give went up $40,000. And buildings and grounds went up $30,000. And that's, we have some temporary properties we took possession of that we have to do maintenance on related to our COA obligation. And also related to some redevelopment initiatives, which we're trying to sell those properties, but we still have to keep them functional. As well as some of the buildings that came with the open space that we purchased. We're working to try to get those buildings open. So that put a little pressure on that line item. Okay, this pie chart shows you where our revenues come from. So as you'll see, slight decrease in our reliance on local property taxes, went from 73% to 69%. Prior year surplus, we had a little more surplus in this budget than we did last year. And what that means is so much credit to our department heads. Because, you know, Public Works is given to, this is just like a textbook example, given a budget for salt and they don't use all that salt, even if it didn't snow, they don't find other things to do with it. They allow it to lapse in the surplus. And that happens across the team. And so I think towns financially really live and die by how well they manage their surplus, and our team does a good job. Also, part of that surplus is whenever a department realizes more money than we budgeted in the revenue side of the ledger, that money goes into surplus. And if properties come online mid-year, those are added and related taxes, that also falls into surplus. So that's money we don't have to share with the other entities, because when they set their budget, that wasn't anticipated. So for that 1 year, we get to keep it. So that's nice. Delinquent taxes, that's, you know, what we collect the subsequent year after they were due. Permits and fees up a little bit. That 1% hit, I will say, is largely attributed to Parks and Recreation. And then miscellaneous revenue is just grants, like little things that come in, like some of the defibrillator grants and those sort of things that we receive. So that's what our revenue picture looks like. All right, so this year, the appropriations, big picture, operating expenses is 31%, salaries and wages is 34%. That reserve for uncollected taxes in the green is 11% of our budget. That is what it's reflected in your tax bill, and you make up for those folks that don't pay their taxes, that we have to then go and collect that money. But we owe that money to the county, the school district, the library. So that's a big piece of the pie. Okay. I would say that some towns really cut that close. And when they do that, they have to issue something called a tax anticipation note, which is a death knell for your AAA bond rating. So you never really want to. So our debt service is 9%, capital improvement 6%, and deferred. That's a new piece of the pie that's related to the sewer department, and during COVID, we had a challenge getting all our collections. So they spent more than they anticipated, and they were able to collect, and we've slowly been attacking that. That'll be fixed in the next year. So, you go back and just look at the operating expenses and salary and wages. I show how that's divided up by services within caps. So public safety, that's not just police, that's our contribution to next slide. Yeah. So public safety, that's just not police, it's OEM, it's our contribution to the fire department, the ambulance squad, and a variety of other small things. Public works, that speaks for itself. Public health is the health department, the work we do there. Recreation, construction code, utilities. Accumulated absence is, that is slowly going away. There was a period where the borough compensated people for not using all of their leave, and they paid it out upon retirement. I think going back maybe 40 years ago, the council put an end to that. Grandfather, people who are still in it, that's a liability that we're working our way through. This year we had a few department heads retire, so that really helped lower that liability, paid that out, but that'll go away eventually. General government and thing includes, I think, just Anthony's salary. No, that's all the administrative departments, the tax assessor, the tax collector, the clerk, our professionals, things like that. A handsome salary we pay council, which is zero, by the way.
$2, so $7.
Received. Didn't even get my token dollar.
The insurance encompasses health insurance and our liability, workers' compensation, property, a few other small policies, and land use is just related to zoning enforcement, support of the planning board, support of the zoning board. So that's how it's divided up. Here next. I think this is something that the borough can be very proud of. For 3 consecutive years, its valuation has been increasing substantially. So when I started, we were just adopting the budget, and our property values overall went up by 59 million. The following year, they went up by 88 million, and then last year they went up by 104 million. So you can see this line graph illustrating that. If I were to be a canary in the coal mine, I would say, you know, we need to, and we talked about this in the finance committee, we really have to start anticipating that that line isn't going to keep going up in the macro sense. And so just we need to be ready. So when you look at that valuation of, you know, over $2 billion, the question is, where do those values come from? So 84% of that valuation comes from single family or owner occupied housing. So that would include single family homes and any townhomes that aren't rentals. 7% is farms. Commercial and industrial makes up 8%. Apartments are our smallest percentage. It's not actually 0, it just rounds down to 0. And vacant land is 1%.
And I think most people would, if you asked them what they thought commercial and industrial together would be, they would think 20%. So that's obviously an issue that we've talked about a lot, is the need to diversify revenue sources, particularly with additional commercial coming in, so it's not on the backs of residents.
There's our anticipated state aid. It actually did go up by like $2,000 in 21 to 22, but look where it was in 08. Wow, it was $939,000 and on a much smaller budget back then. So you can see how much the state has pulled away from their support of towns like ours. All of these line items, but just in a spirit of transparency, are in the budget if you want to see what we're proposing for capital improvements this year. So we provided detailed itemization in the budget, so 217,000 for the police department. We really need to do a lot of upgrades downstairs, so vehicles, technology, bulletproof vests. The radar sign readers, which are very popular, and vehicle license plate readers. These are the cool, don't know if you've ever encountered one of these things, but they're pretty cool. Just you can go up and down our main street and it'll just pick up, it'll bing, and license plate that registers on the reader for which there's a warrant.
Yeah.
Cool. We're not the first ones.
Yeah.
It's been around. We'll find it. Really the biggest ticket item in the budget under capital is the dam remediation. We're under orders from the DEP to address this, and through Doug's leadership, we're slowly working our way through it. And then buildings and grounds, miscellaneous items, all the requests total 3.3 million, and council will deal with the bond ordinance and the capital ordinance separately after adopting this budget. That'll come up. We can have a much more detailed discussion where we'll take out the debt management plan and you can see how it relates.
Is it the last slide?
Last slide.
You can just go. Okay, so listen, I know talking about budgets isn't always thrilling, but I appreciate everyone's time and attention. I think the numbers here tell like a really good story for our community. And the summary of that story is property tax rate decreases despite significant headwinds faced for our borough. The improved valuations that you saw and all the new investment we've had in the community have allowed for a really stable tax rate over the last few years. The budget is focused on some really key priorities we hear from residents, like recreation improvements, increasing library funding, full reconstruction of Bernards Ave, talent retention, and areas like that. Capital improvements to focus on road improvements, parks and recreation master plan, downtown attractiveness, and other high priority projects that'll really help to revitalize our community. And then, of course, the restoration of state aid would allow further alleviation of our tax burden on residents. So with that, I just want to thank everyone from mayor and council to Tom and Leslie and all the residents who had reached out for their time that led to the development of this budget, and looking forward to your comments.
And I want to echo compliments to Leslie. Really, thrown into her role, did a great job, and she's on vacation this week with her family, and I had to bother her 3 times today. Making sure we were all squared away.
And one final comment I'd make, I've had the pleasure, this is my first time on this committee. And I will say that, that Chad and I were very involved, but Al really led the charge here, so I appreciate the work that you did on this.
And this was your first time as chair, so thank you. You really did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Having served on it myself, I know how much work it is, so I appreciate it.
It's a lot right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, well, it's compounding.
Yeah,
A lot at once, but.
I never knew municipal budgets could be so thrilling.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, mayor's
Would
update.
you want to open it up here?
Sorry, I forgot. I got so wrapped up in this. Anyone in the public want to comment on the budget? Johanna, come on up.
Johanna Wissinger, Washington Border Road. Well, I just think that I'm your resident here. I want to thank you. You really made me feel comfortable. I moved here in 71 because the taxes in Somerset were less than Morris and Essex. And thinking that we never want purchasing property in Montana to have a negative criteria of too high taxes. And I think a lot of thought went into this. And I hope that you all do not allow anyone to say there's no transparency, because you are transparent and, people don't pay attention, that's on them. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom? You see anybody? I don't. Anyone else? Good, all right. Yeah, there's a.
Oh,
No, we gotta vote.
No, we'll go through.
Bill, now, okay.
Sorry, move it.
Should have had a drink of dinner. Where are we? Oh, Al.
Yeah. I move that resolution 23-100, adoption of the 2023 municipal budget be adopted.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Nair,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Creedy,
Yes.
Ms. Greenfield,
Yes.
Mr. Randall,
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Where does it go from here? Now we have to submit it to the state.
They were, this was our year to be reviewed. Every 3 years, they review us at 3 or 5. But now, like everyone else, they have to send the final and get a certified copy back, and
Right.
then we'll start processing tax bills.
It just, it makes no sense to me why we're on this calendar, because here we are in the 4th month of the year, we're just approving the budget for this year. You know, and then the schools are almost the opposite, they're planning a year ahead just about, so it's. Who knows? Crazy system, but. it's how it works.
Thanks to Tom for helping us land the plane on this in his last hours as administrator.
Yes, I know. Didn't have to come back for this, but we appreciate it. All right, now it's the mayor's update. I attended Walter Lane's planning partners meeting that the county does. They had the director of the AELP give a presentation. Excuse me, Somerset County is an age-friendly community. And that's the goal of the Mayor's Wellness Committee, is to try and become an age-friendly town. So you'll be hearing more about that. Walter offered to set up a meeting with me and the director of AARP so that we can start that process. The Centennial Committee met. There is a website up that Olivia put up. It is BernardsvilleCentennialCommittee.org. Kicking off the logo contest, so we're asking graphic artists or local artists that live or work in Bernardsville to submit their idea for a centennial logo that we can use on all our promotions and cups, t-shirts, all that stuff. And I believe there's a $250 Bernardsville Bucks gift that goes with that, as well as getting announced that you're the winner. So hopefully we'll get some good feedback on that. Our redevelopment committee met and reviewed, we went through, what our progress has been to date. And we had I shared with you that we'll discuss later some of their comments on the Palmer plan. I attended the ELC lunch, which is the Somerset County Business Partnerships lunch that they do for legislative updates. They had a presentation by, they're featuring different towns at these quarterly meetings. So this was Somerville. So they had the mayor and their two, the people from their special improvement district who take care of everything that goes on downtown, talking about how successful their special improvement district was and all the different initiatives that they've done to revitalize Somerville and what's still coming. They really, years ago, if you've been in Somerville, it's a very different town now. I also attended Annette Mantley's retirement party at the library. She has been there, I believe it was 25 years and working at the library. So it was nice to have a little celebration for her. The extravaganza for Easter on last Saturday, the weather was terrible. Last minute, they got moved into the library. Thank you, Diane was there volunteering. It was amazing how well it was supposed to be at the polo grounds and to be in a confined space. So well organized. Big thank you to the director, Fran, Olivia, Leah, Bob Markowick, and all the volunteers that really helped. It was a huge success. It was so busy, so many kids. They had a great time. They did the egg hunts in the stacks, which was really fun to see. You were there too. You were helping. Weren't you? Yeah. You weren't there? You were there.
I heard so many.
I was there, my kids had a
feedback.
post, and I was not volunteer.
Everybody's wearing blue, so easy to mix us all up.
Yeah, it was incredible. Good. Yeah,
Kids had fun.
they did. We had a kind of a soft opening at Congressman Kane's office. We are thrilled that the congressman has this office in Bernardsville. It really is, actually has 95 municipalities that are in his oversight. And we really are about the middle, which is great because, you know, it's nice to have him in town here. Diane was there at the opening. He's in 75. Yeah. I met on the 4th with our soon-to-be new administrator, Nancy Malul, and kind of, you know, just talk about generally where we are, how, you know, what to expect. I think she's gonna be a great fit, so I'm looking forward to her getting started on the 17th. This morning, we had a ribbon cutting for the pickleball courts. We had 4 county commissioners here, which I thought was terrific. That they all showed up, and Walter Lane and the county engineer. It was really a great turnout. Doug was there, Leah, Bob Markowick, Tom, even Ralph came up there, which was great. Diane was there, Carrie Hazelton, Christine. It was a lot of fun, and then we had everybody got to play a little bit, so. Yeah, they're beautiful, they really are beautiful. So that's part of that county open space fund being used here. Then we had a meeting at noon, this is why it's been a long day, at Ricky's Tie with Congressman Kane. They had a presentation by Uber Eats as to how this system has worked with the economy, and wanted to talk to the congressman about ways that they can help with them staying as entrepreneurs. We had some drivers there kind of telling their stories, and some good food. It was really I think they really appreciate the fact that the congressman listened to them. What else? Oh, just a reminder, we have food stock. I saw the box downstairs, so please make your contributions. We want to get the most weight on food for the it's actually the Somerset County Food Bank, is that what they call it, down in Bridgewater. So we actually, St. Bernard's already, I think, had 120 pounds that we brought last week, so it's all done by weight. So just a reminder, that'll go through, I think, May 5th. And that's my report, mainly non-perishables and things that don't break. You could donate. Tom, you have anything?
Just the last, thank you for being supportive of me and the staff and your kind words. And it just maybe my message is to the community to say, you know, surprising how civil of a governing body you are. You know, and I was telling your colleague that the mayor appointed an opponent to the planning board or the zoning board, but that's just an example of, I think, you know, we can disagree on things, but at the end of the day, you're just so, in this day and age, you don't see that a lot, and don't lose that, because I see how it serves the community in the long run. The frank conversations we're able to have publicly and when need be privately, and you guys just are a model for that. And also, you know, you're very complimentary towards me about, you know, what I did with the staff, but let me just say, they made it extremely easy. We have a good group of people, and along those lines, I want to point out that I technically have been on vacation for the past 2 weeks, and I asked Doug to sit in as the acting administrator. For a period of this time, he has been a little bit under the weather, but hasn't missed a beat. But I work next to Anthony and Doug, and I couldn't have asked for 2 better people to be around every day. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, also.
All right. Yeah.
You know, see you, but. Yeah.
All right, we have the Power School projects. Who are rent a chicken. We got the, yeah, I didn't know you could do that.
Yes,
That's
you can do it.
fascinating.
There's a bunch of companies that can do that.
Yeah. What was the website? Was rent a chicken?
Yeah, there's a,
Yes. And so you could do it for a month. And they set it all up, and it's an educational thing. I think the only feedback we got was from the health department, just to certain precautions to take. Do we have any issue with it?
no, this is a great project.
All right. So Anthony, will you tell them it's okay?
Can we visit it?
I hope it doesn't bother the neighbors.
They're not really noisy.
Yeah, just some of the roosters,
The roosters where the noise comes, yeah.
Okay, the other thing we had was the letter from the downtown committee. Joe, do you want to walk us through those a little bit about?
Sure. So if you all received correspondence, the Downtown Revitalization Committee, came up with 11 things after their review of the introduced redevelopment. Palmer. These will be presented to the planning board at the meeting on Thursday, where they're gonna have a full hearing, so a lot of these things will be discussed. I know the planning board, they do a thorough job, so they will cover most of these. Some of them, just to point out, fire safety is a code, right? So whether it's in a plan, not in a plan, whatever anybody says it, you always have to build a building code.
And chief always use that, or the?
Yeah, and the reason why you want that is you might have a plan that's 5 years old and the code changes. So the plan never controls building or safety code. Similar to stormwater, it's usually a kind of construction or permit, you want to deal with whatever. So things like that. The height, the setbacks, landscaping, color, parking, those are all things that are in the plan that were discussed amongst the council, discussed amongst professionals, and now will be publicly fully discussed at that hearing, and then it comes back to the municipality.
Are all the drawings going to be sent to the planning board?
Yeah, they have it. Yeah, they should. Pretty confident they do. So I mean, that's about it. Some of the things can be taken care of in a redevelopers agreement. So the public amenities or anything. Usually it would better fitted in a redevelopers agreement for an off-that improvement, because it sits outside the confines of the building plan or the envelope. So if you want someone to do something to Olcott Square across the street, really not part of the redevelopment plan, because it sits outside the building envelope, right? And it doesn't apply to them. So that's handled in the redevelopers agreement. Color, they will have to comply with the ordinance. And then there was a comment about, sidewalk sales and things of that. It's really something that you guys govern on a regular basis, whether you want to commit it, don't commit it, it's really not a planning board. That's always regulated by your use of the public sidewalk. Any encroachments or things of that nature, a planning board can never really grant. Again, they're stuck to what's inside the building envelope. A sidewalk sale is technically on the public right of way. So the people who regulate that, so just like they want to not allow it, they couldn't allow it, right? That is allowed for the council. So these will be addressed, I'm sure there will be other comments, and we'll see where it goes. And then we're back here.
The unit sizes, is that also addressed?
Unit sizes is one of those things you can put in a minimum, right? There's a big concern with the developer or the type of building, whether they're cramming too much in and a small space. That is one way to control quality in some respects, right? So you don't allow 600 square foot, 2 bedrooms, right?
Right.
A healthier side. On this project, because you push down the number of units and not really the size of the building. It's really not that big of a concern. But it's something that's easily dropped in. There are some standards. You usually want a healthy mix in town. It's one of the reasons why, when you look at your budget and things of that nature, you budget primarily, single family homes, maybe a couple of 1 or 2 family homes in town. You don't have a stock of multifamily or commercial type businesses, and you want various sizes, right? So that's another way, a tool, to design certain buildings.
Sorry, planning board meeting, you said, was this Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it still on Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah, only on Zoom.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing on Thursdays, determining that it's not inconsistent with the. master
Yeah.
plan.
But they're free to come back with recommendations, so if they discover something. A lot of what in the plan is a result of their prior work, right? So the design standards and things of that nature are the result of 2 years ago's work that the planning board put in for design. So some of that's already incorporated, so I don't, but they may have caught something in between the 2 or 3 things that they don't like, or that they might offer a recommendation. But that all gets worked back to you, depending on the extent of the recommendations and things of that nature. You might have to reintroduce it because you changed the plan enough. If you drop something in like, yes, they need traffic study, not really a big change to the plan, which is required.
So is what the committee sent to council going to be sent to the planning board?
Yes.
Or- Okay.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell us if there's.
Yeah, I mean, there's a member on this committee that sits on the planning board,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty confident they're fully aware of it.
Just want to make sure there's connectivity.
Yeah.
And they did a traffic study already, correct?
They did a preliminary traffic study, but you really will want another one to be presented at the time of final site plan. Just to understand how the cars flow and you're more comfortable with that. But your engineer, your town engineer will look at all of that also. That's the other stopgap in here, is at the end of the day, your engineer, your fire code official, your building code official, your planner will take any site plan that comes in and make sure that it actually functions. So there's always a paragraph in here that says, hey, those people are actually, right? You can write whatever you want, you can't build an unsafe building, right? So those people are the last check and balance to make sure that the project actually functions. So they'll connect. Your engineer may request one with regards to turning radiuses, heights, and things of that nature.
Yeah, right.
Ferraro would be the engineer for this?
Yes, that would be, yeah. Yeah, top right.
What is the plan of where to?
Yeah. Which is, he knows where the pipes are, he knows where the outlets are, and things of that nature, which is what we want. So a driveway may move 5 feet because it just makes sense. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
All right, do we have any unfinished business? New business?
I have one quick item.
Yeah.
I have, I've gotten complaints about Verizon coverage from the communities off of Meeker, like Pill Hill, Charlotte Hill. Do we have a rep to the borough from Verizon that I could bother like I did other utilities? Okay. I mean, I don't know if I've gotten a couple of complaints.
They are, yeah, I had a complaint about one of their wires down, that's been down. for
Maybe that
a
was
long
it.
time, and it's on somebody's front lawn. Yeah, they're not very responsible.
Yeah.
I don't, they don't, several things, they don't come out for like one. or two.
Well, Tom got all the wires that fixed that were around town.
Yeah.
But they don't give all of them, I gave them.
Right, we gave them that whole list.
Pages.
Yeah, but it took a lot of time on your part to get them out there.
Yes.
But we should
That's right on Basking Ridge, right? So like right on Bernardsville Township. So maybe if we could even check the Borough of Township too and see if they could like to that similar area, we could do something about it. But I'll follow up with Tom, if you have the name. Thank you.
I think this Saturday, the Little League opens, so that there's a parade.
9 a.m. at the parking lot across from the chapel. They start out, they march down to Kiwanis, and then the games all day. And then pretty much they start with T-ball and then move up.
The snack shack is open.
And the
Oh, they
snack
always have
shack is
really
open.
good
Yeah, they do.
World class section.
Yeah, so it's pantry.
Salad.
We didn't have any other correspondence, did we? Okay. That was it. That was new business. We're done. All right. We do have some executive session items to discuss. So do I have a motion?
I'll move to executive session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
We're coming back up.
No, we will not be coming back. Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys. 2-minute break.